Have you ever noticed how retirement planning can feel like learning an entirely new language? You hear terms like 401(n), Roth IRA, traditional IRA, SEP IRA, 403 Dame 57 plans tossed around in conversations, articles, and financial videos. Everyone seems to assume that you already know the difference between them. But for many people, these accounts feel confusing, overwhelming, and sometimes even intimidating. The truth is that retirement investing doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, once you understand a few key concepts, these accounts begin to make a lot more sense. And more importantly, you'll be able to make better decisions with your money, decisions that could potentially affect your financial future for decades to come. Today, I want to walk through the most popular retirement accounts available, explain how they work, discuss their strengths and weaknesses, and help you understand which ones may fit your situation best. Whether you're just starting your career, approaching retirement, working for yourself, or simply trying to organize your finances, this guide is designed to serve as a long-term reference that you can come back to whenever you need a refresher. Let's begin with one of the most common retirement accounts in America, the traditional 401(n). For many people, the 401(n) is their first introduction to retirement investing. If you've ever started a new job and been handed a stack of paperwork from human resources, chances are a 401(n) enrollment form was somewhere in that pile. At its core, a traditional 401(n) is a retirement account sponsored by your employer. It allows you to contribute a portion of your paycheck before taxes are taken out. That one feature alone can be incredibly powerful. Let's imagine that you earn $75,000 per year. If you decide to contribute $10,000 into your traditional 401(a), the IRS generally views your taxable income as $65,000 instead of $75,000. Why does that matter? Because it means you're reducing the amount of income that is subject to taxes today. In other words, you're saving for retirement while potentially lowering your current tax bill at the same time. That's one reason why so many financial planners appreciate traditional 401(n) accounts. They create an immediate tax benefit while helping investors build wealth for the future. Of course, there's a trade-off. The money inside your traditional 401 doesn't avoid taxes forever. Instead, it grows tax-deferred. Tax-deferred simply means that you postpone paying taxes until later. As your investments grow over the years, you won't pay taxes on dividends, interest, or capital gains each year. Instead, you'll pay ordinary income taxes when you eventually withdraw the money during retirement. Think of it as postponing the tax conversation until a later chapter of your life. For many retirees, this works out well because their income often decreases after they stop working. If your tax bracket is lower in retirement than during your working years, you may end up paying less tax overall. Another important characteristic of the traditional 401(a) is that it's designed specifically for retirement. This isn't a checking account. It's not an emergency fund. It's not money intended for next year's vacation. The government wants these funds reserved for your future, which is why there are penalties for withdrawing money too early. Generally speaking, if you withdraw funds before age 59.5, you may owe both ordinary income taxes and a 10% early withdrawal penalty. That penalty isn't there to punish you. It's there to discourage people from sacrificing their future retirement security for short-term spending. And honestly, that's not necessarily a bad thing. One of the greatest challenges in personal finance is protecting our future selves from our present-day impulses. Retirement accounts help create that protection. Now let's talk about one of the most attractive benefits available in many workplace retirement plans: employer matching. If your employer offers a match, this is something you should pay very close attention to. Imagine your employer says they'll match 50% of your contributions up to a certain limit. If you contribute $6,000, they might contribute an additional $3,000. That's essentially free money. Few financial opportunities provide an immediate return like that. If someone offered to give you an instant 50% return on your money, most people would jump at the chance. That's why many financial professionals suggest contributing enough to receive the full employer match before focusing heavily on other investment goals. You're simply taking advantage of compensation that's already available to you. Another question people often ask is what they should invest in once the money enters the 401(n). Every employer plan is different. Some plans offer dozens of investment choices, while others provide only a handful. Generally speaking, many investors gravitate toward broadly diversified index funds because they offer exposure to hundreds or even thousands of companies while keeping costs relatively low. Instead of trying to predict which individual company will become the next big winner, index funds allow you to participate in the growth of an entire market. For long-term investors, that simplicity can be incredibly valuable. Now here's where things become more interesting. One of the biggest decisions surrounding a traditional 401(n) involves taxes. Specifically, you must ask yourself an important question. Do I expect my tax rate to be lower or higher in retirement? Nobody can answer this with complete certainty. Tax laws change, life changes, income changes, but your expectations can help guide your decision. If you believe you'll have significantly lower income during retirement, a traditional 401(n) may look very appealing because you'll receive tax savings today and potentially pay lower taxes later. On the other hand, if you expect to continue earning substantial income, consulting, running a business, or working well into your retirement years, another option might deserve your attention. And that brings us to the Roth 401(a). The Roth 401(n) flips the traditional 401 tax structure upside down. Instead of receiving a tax deduction today, you contribute money that has already been taxed. That means you don't lower your taxable income in the current year. At first glance, that may sound less attractive. After all, who doesn't like an immediate tax break? But here's where the Roth account shines. Once the money enters the Roth account and meets the necessary rules, your future withdrawals can be completely tax-free. Think about that for a moment. Every dollar of growth, every dividend, every gain accumulated over decades, potentially tax-free when you retire. For younger investors especially, that benefit can be extraordinary. Imagine investing consistently for 30 or 40 years. Over time, your investment gains may become far larger than your original contributions. The Roth structure allows those future gains to escape taxation entirely under qualifying conditions. That's why many people view the Roth account as a powerful long-term wealth-building tool. There's also a psychological advantage. Many retirees appreciate knowing that the balance they see in their account is largely theirs to keep. They don't have to estimate future tax obligations or worry as much about how changing tax rates might affect their retirement income. The simplicity creates peace of mind, and peace of mind is often underrated when discussing financial planning. Money isn't just about maximizing returns, it's also about reducing stress and increasing confidence. Another recent improvement to Roth 401 NDSs has made them even more attractive. Historically, Roth 401(n)s were subject to required minimum distributions. That meant retirees eventually had to begin withdrawing funds whether they needed money or not. However, recent rule changes eliminated that requirement for Roth 401(n)s, bringing them more in line with the Roth IRA structure. For individuals focused on long-term wealth accumulation or legacy planning, this flexibility can be extremely valuable. Now that we've covered the two major versions of the 401(n), let's shift our attention to another cornerstone of retirement planning, the individual retirement account, commonly known as the IRA. Unlike a 401(a), an IRA does not require an employer. This is one of its greatest strengths. Whether you're employed full-time, working as a freelancer, operating a small business, or earning self-employment income, you can generally open an IRA as long as you meet the eligibility requirements. That independence gives investors greater control. You aren't limited to the investment menu selected by an employer. Instead, you can choose the brokerage platform and investment options that best fit your goals. Many people appreciate that flexibility. It allows them to build a retirement portfolio that reflects their own preferences rather than relying solely on workplace plan offerings. The traditional IRA operates similarly to the traditional 401(n). Contributions may provide tax benefits today, and investment growth occurs on a tax-deferred basis. Taxes generally become due when money is withdrawn during retirement. The contribution limits are lower than those of a 401(n), but the account still plays a valuable role in retirement planning. In fact, many people use both. This is a point that often surprises beginners. You don't necessarily have to choose between a 401(n) and an IRA. In many situations, you can contribute to both accounts during the same year. Doing so allows you to take advantage of multiple tax-advantaged vehicles simultaneously. For investors serious about building retirement wealth, that combination can be very powerful. But while traditional IRAs provide flexibility and tax advantages, the account that often generates the most excitement among financial educators is the Roth IRA. And in the next section, we'll explore exactly why so many people consider it one of the most valuable retirement tools available. The Roth IRA has earned an almost legendary reputation among personal finance enthusiasts, and once you understand how it works, it's easy to see why. At first glance, it doesn't seem particularly special. You contribute money that has already been taxed. You don't receive an immediate tax deduction. There is no upfront reward for making the contribution. But retirement planning is often about delayed gratification, and the Roth IRA may be one of the best examples of that principle. The reward comes later, potentially much later, and when it arrives, it can be incredibly powerful. With a Roth IRA, qualified withdrawals in retirement are generally tax-free, not just your original contributions, but the growth as well. Think about the long-term implications. Imagine a 25-year-old investor contributing consistently year after year. Those contributions may grow for 3 or 4 decades before retirement arrives. During that time, dividends are reinvested, markets rise, and compounding works its magic. By retirement age, the account balance could be several times larger than the total amount originally contributed. And under the right circumstances, those gains can be withdrawn completely tax-free. That possibility is why many investors love the Roth IRA. But the account has a few unique rules that are important to understand. One of the most frequently misunderstood is the 5-year rule. The 5-year rule generally requires that at least 5 years pass from your first Roth IRA contribution before certain earnings can be withdrawn, tax-free. This isn't usually a problem because retirement investing is naturally a long-term activity. Still, it's important to know because many people assume that all Roth money automatically becomes tax-free the moment it's deposited. That's not exactly how it works. Time matters. The account is designed to reward long-term saving, not short-term speculation. Another feature that makes the Roth IRA unique is its flexibility. Let's say over several years you've contributed a total of $30, zero to your Roth IRA. Even if the account balance grows to $50,000, the IRS generally allows you to withdraw your original $30, zero in contributions without taxes or penalties. That's because you've already paid taxes on those dollars before contributing them. The earnings portion is where the rules become more restrictive. This distinction creates a level of flexibility that many investors appreciate. Now, that doesn't mean your Roth IRA should become your emergency fund. Far from it. The real power of the Roth IRA comes from leaving the money alone and allowing it to compound for years or decades. However, Knowing that contributions remain accessible can provide a little extra peace of mind. Life doesn't always go according to plan. Unexpected opportunities and challenges arise. Having some flexibility built into a retirement account can be reassuring. Another reason the Roth IRA receives so much attention is the absence of required minimum distributions during the original account owner's lifetime. In plain English, the government generally doesn't force you to withdraw the money at a specific age. You can leave it invested. You can allow it to continue growing. You can use it strategically as part of a larger retirement income plan. That flexibility can be extremely valuable. Of course, there is one major limitation. The Roth IRA has income restrictions. High earners may eventually reach income levels that limit or eliminate their ability to contribute directly. This often surprises people. After all, retirement saving seems like something everyone should be encouraged to do. Yet the Roth IRA was designed with income thresholds that phase out eligibility at certain earnings levels. Fortunately, higher income investors often explore strategies such as the backdoor Roth IRA, which involves contributing to a traditional IRA and then converting those funds into a Roth IRA. The mechanics can become somewhat technical, and many people choose to consult a tax professional before pursuing that strategy. Still, it's useful to know that options exist. Now let's shift our attention to another retirement account that doesn't get as much attention, but can be incredibly valuable for entrepreneurs and self-employed individuals, the SEP IRA. If you've ever dreamed of running your own business, freelancing full-time, consulting independently, or building your own company, the SEP IRA is an account worth understanding. SEP stands for Simplified Employee Pension. Despite the somewhat intimidating name, the concept is actually straightforward. The SEP IRA was created to help self-employed individuals and small business owners save aggressively for retirement. One of its biggest advantages is the contribution limit. Compared to traditional IRAs, SEP IRAs allow significantly larger contributions. This can be a game changer for entrepreneurs whose income fluctuates from year to year. Imagine a business owner who experiences a particularly profitable year. The SEP IRA may allow them to shelter a substantial amount of that income for retirement while also potentially reducing their current tax liability. That's a powerful combination. Business ownership often comes with uncertainty. Income may rise dramatically one year and fall the next. Having a retirement account that accommodates larger contributions during strong years provides valuable flexibility. Another reason many self-employed individuals appreciate SEP IRAs is their simplicity. Unlike some retirement plans that require extensive administrative work, SEP IRAs are generally easy to establish and maintain. That simplicity matters. Entrepreneurs already wear multiple hats. They're managing clients, employees, operations, marketing, finances, and countless other responsibilities. The last thing many business owners want is another layer of complexity. The SEP IRA helps solve that problem. Now let's move on to a retirement account that serves a very different group of workers, the 403(b). If you've spent your career helping others, teaching students, serving communities, or working for nonprofit organizations, there's a good chance you've encountered a 403(b). A 403(b) functions very similarly to a 401(a). In many ways, they're almost cousins. The major difference lies in who typically uses them. While 401(n)s are generally associated with private sector employers, 403 plans are commonly offered by schools, nonprofit organizations, hospitals, religious institutions, and certain public service employers. The goals are largely the same. Employees contribute money toward retirement. Investments grow over time. Tax advantages help encourage long-term saving. The contribution limits are generally comparable to those found in 401(n) plans. However, one unique feature of certain 403 POLBOT plans is the additional contribution opportunity available to long-serving employees. Workers who remain with the same qualifying organization for many years may be eligible to contribute extra amounts beyond standard limits. This feature rewards commitment and long-term service, and honestly, that's fitting. Many nonprofit and public sector careers aren't pursued because of enormous salaries. They're often pursued because people feel called to make a difference. Teachers, healthcare workers, nonprofit leaders, and community advocates frequently dedicate decades of their lives to helping others. Additional retirement saving opportunities can provide meaningful support for those individuals later in life. Now let's discuss the final retirement plan on our list, the 457-DOB. While it doesn't receive as much mainstream attention as the 401(n) or Roth IRA, the 457-DI contains a feature that makes it remarkably unique. A 457-DI is commonly offered to state and local government employees and certain nonprofit workers. On the surface, it resembles a 4003-DOB. Employees contribute money. Investments grow tax-deferred. Contribution limits are similar, but there's one major distinction. The 457-BOB generally does not impose the same 10% early withdrawal penalty that applies to many other retirement accounts. That's a significant difference. For individuals who retire early or leave their employer before age 59 and a half, this flexibility can create additional planning opportunities. Imagine someone who spends decades working in public service and decides to retire at age 55. With many retirement accounts, accessing funds before 59 and a half can trigger penalties. The 457-DA may provide access without that extra penalty after separation from service. That flexibility can be incredibly valuable for early retirees. It gives them more options, more choices, and more control over how they manage retirement income. Of course, taxes may still apply depending on the circumstances, but avoiding the additional penalty is a meaningful advantage. When you step back and look at all these retirement accounts together, a pattern begins to emerge. Each account was designed for a specific purpose. Each serves a particular audience. And each offers its own blend of flexibility, tax benefits, contribution limits, and withdrawal rules. The challenge isn't finding the perfect account. The challenge is identifying which account aligns best with your situation. Because personal finance is exactly that, personal. A strategy that works beautifully for one person may be completely inappropriate for another. A young professional just starting a career has different needs than a physician nearing retirement. A teacher has different options than a self-employed consultant. A nonprofit executive faces different decisions than a small business owner. Understanding these accounts empowers you to make informed choices instead of relying on guesswork. And that brings us to one of the most important conversations of all. How should you prioritize these accounts if multiple options are available? This question comes up constantly because most people have limited resources. Very few investors can fully maximize every retirement account available to them. Choices have to be made. Priorities must be established. And while there is no universal answer that fits everyone, there are some guiding principles that many financial professionals agree upon. One of the most common questions people ask when they begin investing for retirement is surprisingly simple. Where should I put my next dollar? It's a fair question. Most people aren't choosing between saving and spending. They're choosing between multiple good options: a 401(n), a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, a SEP IRA, a taxable brokerage account, paying off debt, building an emergency fund. The possibilities can feel endless. And because every financial article seems to offer a different opinion, many people end up feeling stuck. The good news is that retirement planning doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency. A good plan followed consistently is usually far more effective than a perfect plan that never gets implemented. When discussing retirement account priorities, many financial planners start with one simple recommendation: take advantage of any employer match available through your workplace retirement plan. Why? Because employer matching represents one of the few guaranteed returns available in investing. Markets can go up, markets can go down. Interest rates change, economic conditions shift. But if your employer promises to match a portion of your contributions, that's an immediate benefit available today. Let's imagine your employer matches 100% of your contributions up to 5% of your salary. If you earn $60, and contribute $3,000, your employer contributes another $3,000. You've instantly doubled that portion of your investment before market growth even enters the picture. That's difficult to ignore. For that reason alone, many investors focus first on contributing enough to receive the full employer match. After capturing that match, many people turn their attention to a Roth IRA. Why? Flexibility. Control, investment choice. Unlike many employer-sponsored plans, a Roth IRA typically allows you to choose from a much broader range of investments. You can build a portfolio that reflects your own goals and preferences, rather than being limited to a menu selected by your employer. Some investors prefer broad market index funds. Others may include international exposure. Some want additional diversification through bonds. The Roth IRA often provides the freedom to customize. And let's not forget the tax-free growth potential, which remains one of the account's most attractive features. After maximizing the Roth IRA, many investors return to their workplace retirement plan and continue increasing contributions there. Again, there isn't a single correct order for everyone. Personal circumstances matter, income levels matter, tax brackets matter, retirement goals matter. But having a framework helps transform a confusing process into a manageable one. Now, let's address another important topic. What should you actually invest in once the money enters these retirement accounts? This is where many people become overwhelmed. Choosing the account is one decision. Choosing investments is another. And for some investors, the second decision feels even harder than the first. The financial industry doesn't always make this easier. You'll encounter advertisements promoting market-beating strategies. You'll hear stories about investors who supposedly picked the perfect stock at the perfect time. You'll see headlines predicting economic disasters one week and market booms the next. It can feel like everyone has a different opinion. But over the years, one lesson has consistently stood out. Successful retirement investing is usually boring, and that's actually good news. Many long-term investors build wealth not through constant trading or dramatic predictions, but through diversification, patience, and consistency. This is why index funds have become so popular. An index fund seeks to track a specific market index rather than outperform it. Instead of betting heavily on one company, you own small pieces of many companies. This diversification helps reduce the risk associated with any single investment. Imagine owning shares in hundreds or even thousands of businesses spread across different industries. Some companies will struggle, some will thrive. But together, they create a portfolio designed to capture the broader growth of the economy. For retirement investors with decades-long time horizons, that approach can be remarkably effective. Another important factor to monitor is fees. Fees may seem insignificant at first glance. A fraction of a percent doesn't sound like much, but over decades, small fees can compound just like investment returns. And unfortunately, they compound in the opposite direction. Every dollar spent on unnecessary fees is a dollar that isn't working for your future. That's why many investors pay close attention to expense ratios when selecting funds. Lower costs don't guarantee better performance, but controlling expenses remains one of the few aspects of investing that investors can directly influence. Now let's talk about a concept that often gets overlooked when discussing retirement accounts: behavior. Because retirement success isn't determined solely by account type, it's heavily influenced by habits. The greatest retirement account in the world can't help someone who never contributes. Likewise, Even a relatively simple retirement plan can produce extraordinary results when paired with consistent contributions over many years. This is where compounding becomes so powerful. Compounding is often called the eighth wonder of the world, and while that phrase may sound dramatic, there's a reason people repeat it. Compounding allows your money to generate returns, and then those returns begin generating returns of their own. Over long periods, the effect can become astonishing. Imagine two investors. The first begins saving at age 25. The second waits until age 35. Both contribute consistently and earn similar investment returns. Despite contributing for only 10 additional years, the first investor may end up with substantially more wealth by retirement. Why? Because time is one of the most valuable assets in investing. Time allows compounding to work. Time allows market growth to accumulate. Time allows setbacks to recover. And time is something no investor can buy later. This is why financial educators often encourage people to start before they feel completely ready. You don't need perfect knowledge. You don't need to predict the future. You don't need to become a stock market expert. You simply need to begin. Even modest contributions made consistently can grow into meaningful sums over the course of a career. Now, let's tackle another question that frequently arises. Should you choose a traditional account or a Roth account? This debate has existed for years, and there are thoughtful arguments on both sides. Traditional accounts provide tax savings today. Roth accounts provide tax savings later. The decision often comes down to your expectations regarding future tax rates. If you believe you'll be in a lower tax bracket during retirement, traditional accounts may offer advantages. If you believe you'll be in a similar or higher tax bracket later, Roth accounts may appear more attractive. The reality, however, is that none of us can predict the future with complete certainty. Tax laws evolve, income changes. Life surprises us. Because of that uncertainty, many investors choose a balanced approach. They contribute to both traditional and Roth accounts over time. This creates what's often called tax diversification. Just as diversification spreads investment risk across different assets, tax diversification spreads tax risk across different account types. In retirement, having access to both taxable and tax-free income sources can provide valuable flexibility. You gain options. And in retirement planning, options are powerful. Let's also discuss a topic that doesn't receive enough attention: emotions. Retirement planning is often presented as a mathematical exercise: contribution limits, tax rates, withdrawal rules, investment returns. Those things matter. But retirement is ultimately about people. It's about the life you want to build. It's about freedom. It's about choices. It's about creating a future where work becomes optional rather than mandatory. For some people, retirement means traveling the world. For others, it means spending time with grandchildren. Some dream of volunteering. Others want to start a small business, pursue creative passions, or simply enjoy slower mornings and less stress. The destination looks different for everyone, but the underlying goal remains remarkably similar. Most people want security. They want peace of mind. They want confidence that they'll be able to support themselves and the people they care about. Retirement accounts are simply tools that help make those goals possible. And while it's easy to get lost in technical details, it's important not to lose sight of the bigger picture. Every contribution represents an investment in your future self. Every dollar saved today is a vote for greater freedom tomorrow. Every year of consistent investing moves you one step closer to financial independence. That's why retirement planning matters. Not because of spreadsheets, not because of tax forms, not because of contribution limits, but because it creates opportunities. It expands choices. It provides security during a stage of life when income from employment may no longer be available. As we begin wrapping up this discussion, I want to address one final misconception. Many people believe they're behind. They assume it's too late. They compare themselves to others and feel discouraged. Maybe they didn't start investing in their 20s. Maybe they spent years paying off debt. Maybe life threw challenges their way that delayed their financial progress. If that's you, remember this. The best time to start investing may have been years ago, but the second best time is today. Progress doesn't require perfection. It requires action. Even small steps matter. A single contribution matters. An increase in savings rate matters. Learning more about your retirement options matters. Momentum builds over time. And often, the most important step is simply deciding to begin. Retirement planning isn't about becoming wealthy overnight. It's about steadily building a foundation that can support the life you hope to live decades from now. And while the various account names, 401(k), Roth IRA, Traditional IRA, SEP IRA, 57(d), may initially seem confusing, they're ultimately just different vehicles designed to help you reach the same destination: a secure and financially confident future. The key is understanding how each vehicle works, selecting the ones that fit your circumstances, and then remaining consistent year after year. Because in the end, retirement success is rarely the result of one brilliant financial decision. More often, it's the result of hundreds of small, disciplined decisions repeated over time, and those decisions begin today.